guys, it's me Jake here, and today I'm going to be doing my manga / comic reading log for the month of August. Now, I started getting into comics this month, so there's going to be quite a few comics and one very large omnibus I did read for the month of August. So that's what I've mainly kind of been reading, but I'll split this up into parts so you'll see. I'll start off with the manga and then of course I'll end it off with the comics. So if you want to see my more comic reading log, you can go and skip to that. Or if you want to see my manga and not my comics, you can just not watch that at all because then there'll be a timestamp there, yada yada yada. But yeah, let's get straight into it with the first series that I read in the month of August. So, starting off is something I started to reread this month, and it's because the final volume just recently came out. I finished the first arc of it. Now, if you don't know any of the hints that I just said, that's going to be The Promised Neverland Volumes 1, 2, 3, and also 4 to finish out the Gracefield arc, and I love this series. This arc is an amazing arc. It really just represents how good a series that is not a battle shonen inside of Shonen Jump really can be. It really represents that kind of series. And I will say it's a very interesting series that does bring a lot of things to the table. Of course, I've yet to read the actual ending of this series. That's why I'm currently rereading it. But Gracefield is such a banger starter arc. And I think that Goldie Pond is also probably even better than Gracefield. So I would say that this series is just so good. And I would highly recommend Promised Neverland. If you've yet to read it, just don't watch it. I can recommend season 1 if you're going to watch the anime, but do not watch season 2. I'd rather you just start reading it because you miss out on probably the best arc, which is Goldie Pond. And I will say that that's just a terrible thing that they shouldn't have done. They wanted to end it when it was at its peak of its popularity, right after the manga ended, so they just went and just rushed through the season 2 to end it. Hopefully it gets a Brotherhood treatment, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, as we had to wait almost like 10 years, I think, for Brotherhood, so I don't think it's going to be coming out anytime soon, but Promised Neverland is such a banger, and the first 4 volumes are oh so great, and the antagonist of Isabella is amazing for a Shonen Jump antagonist. She's just insane, so yeah. That is Promised Neverland Volumes 1 through 4, and on to the next series I read in August. Now, for the next series I actually read in August, this is quite a weird series, but I actually kind of enjoyed it a bit. That's going to be Sex Ed 120%. It's an interesting series. It's not too great, but it does have very funny comedic moments. Basically, what Sex Ed 120% is about, if you don't know what it is about, follows these 3 girls who are going into high school and have very different kind of sexual experiences, and there's their one health teacher, which isn't even on the cover. There's 4 girls, actually. I don't know why I said 3. There's 4 girls. But then they have their teacher, who is also kind of just like a super maniac when it comes to sex, and she tries teaching them everything she can. And it just has a lot of comedic moments with these characters that have very different backgrounds and very different personalities going into this kind of class. And it's kind of funny because their teacher tries pushing a lot of stuff on them, and it's very funny to see that. So I will say, very funny story. It's not something I would definitely recommend. I would say it's a pretty decent story if you're looking into one of those weirder series. This is definitely one of them that would be a better one. But of course, I don't really have much else in experience in these kind of series because I haven't read many. But it is quite decent, so if you want to read it, go ahead and check it out. I thought it was pretty good, but it's definitely not going to be everyone's taste. But yeah, that's all I have to say for Sex Ed 120%. Now, for the next one, something I've been meaning to catch up on and just decided to give it a break so that I can binge more of it, My Hero Vigilantes Volumes 9 and 10. I am so happy I gave myself some time to actually let these 2 volumes come out instead of just reading 9 and then having to wait, then reading 10. Because Volume 9 left off on a huge cliffhanger, and then going into Volume 10 was so amazing, and that also left on somewhat of a cliffhanger, so I did read Volume 11 online, but I will still be picking it up, of course, and I will say, I heard a lot of people saying it started to drop the ball around here, and I think it just started running away with it. I felt like this arc is amazing so far, and I cannot wait to see what happens within within the characters and what happens with Koichi, and really what happens in the future of the series, as it's just been picking up for me. It hasn't been dropping anything. I think it's just at its peak right now from where I'm reading it. I think it's super interesting, and I cannot wait to see more of it, as these twists and turns that keep going throughout the story are just super entertaining to me, and I felt like it's a very great change in pace, as it felt like kind of like the original My Hero Academia storyline, where it had this super upbeat story, super upbeat tempo, and then it kind of went to a darker tone, and it really felt like they did that here as well, and I think it really did it justice. I think it really did very well within that tone shift. I really love this kind of story. I love how Vigilantes changed, and I love the series just completely, so highly recommend Vigilantes if you're a fan of My Hero Academia, or even if you're not a fan of My Hero Academia. It's different enough where you can definitely read this and be like, wow, this is still super enjoyable without reading the original My Hero Academia. So highly recommend Vigilantes, and on to the next one. Now, the next one is the most volumes I've read of anything this month, and that makes sense because if you've been following any of my last reading logs, then you know I've been reading this for a little bit, just 2 volumes here and there, but I read 6 volumes in my, I think, second or third reread of Bleach. I read from volume 9 all the way to volume 14, which is right around the middle of the Soul Society arc. And oh my god, I remember how good the Soul Society arc is. This is around right after Ichigo gets taken back by Yoruichi, and she has to help him get stronger so that he can fight Byakuya. And I will say, it's just amazing so far. The Ichigo Renji and Ichigo's Kenpachi fights, amazing fights. Even the Ichigo Byakuya, like part 1 in the Soul Society part, super interesting, and I just love what Bleach really stood for at this point, and how Tite Kubo handled Bleach within the Soul Society, because, man, this series just picked up so much, and the art just got better so quickly that it's insane. But I will say this is around the start of the infamous white backgrounds that Tite Kubo is definitely known for, so I will say it is kind of annoying, but of course, with the character designs Tite Kubo gives us, I'm not mad a singular bit, because goddamn, Tite Kubo like knows how to draw a really interesting and intricate character so well, as every single character, every captain, every single person inside the Soul Society looks cool. Like, I'll admit that almost every single person looks cool. Of course, like the foot soldiers don't really look cool, like the Soul Reapers that really don't do much, but all the Gote 13 look cool. Of course, if you don't know, I'm a huge Hitsugaya stan, and Kid Hitsugaya looks so cool. Same with Kenpachi, same with Renji, same with Byakuya. Like, Tosen looks sick. Everyone really looks sick at this point. So, Tite Kubo, big ups to you. This is such a great series, and I'm so happy to be rereading it again. This arc just solidifies itself as one of my favorite Battle Shonen arcs of all time. Easily in my top 10, maybe even my top 5. Like, goddamn, great arc. But that's enough for Bleach, and also enough for my manga. So let's just get into my comic reading log, as I've read around 4 storylines of comics this month that were all great. So let's just get straight into that. Now, to start off, I'm going to do what I read in order from my first comic to the most recent comic I read. Of course, this is more of a reread, this one, but I will say, really good comic. I definitely think it is very overrated, but you'll also see a trend within all these comics that all 4 of the storylines are Batman storylines. I'm currently reading a Green Lantern run, but that's probably going to be my next reading log, as I've only read 2 issues of it, so I can't really put it on here. But to start that off, it's going to be the iconic storyline of The Killing Joke. This is a really good storyline. It's only 1 issue, so it's around 50 pages. The art's really good, but I do think that it isn't that great. I think it's good, but nothing amazing. I think that everyone's saying that this is their favorite storyline of all time. I can see why, but for me, it's a very decent storyline, but overrated as all hell. I will admit that, but I did really enjoy it, and of course, I did continue reading more comics after it, and even without the slipcover, this thing looks beautiful. So I'm still happy I got it. I got it for a good deal. It was like $15, so it's nothing that insane. So, very much did enjoy it. Would I recommend it? Of course, it does give it a little bit of one of the backstories for Joker. And also, you kind of need this for the future of reading Batman storylines, as you see what happens to Barbara or Jim Gordon's daughter and yada yada yada. But I will say, really decent storyline. But the next one, I just liked more, so let's just get straight into that. Now, the next one I did read is super different from The Killing Joke, and that is The Batman Who Laughs. This is not an oversized hardcover like the other 2 I read. This is just a deluxe edition, as I don't think this has an oversized hardcover. But this just looks super great. This storyline was very interesting. I liked the whole entire concept of like what happens if Joker died, but then he kind of doesn't at the same time. And seeing what happens to Batman is really interesting. I will say this is definitely a great start to Batman storylines as well. Of course, they do introduce the Court of Owls in here. Well, they don't introduce them, but they have the Court of Owls in here, which I never got introduced to myself, so I actually didn't know they existed before this, so that was interesting to see them. I'm really interested in see how they kind of came about, but I hear that might be, I think that's in the Scott Snyder omnibus, so I don't know about that, but I do have the Scott Snyder Omnibus. I'm just going to read it soon, not right this second. So I'm trying to give Batman storylines a break as I've read so many. But yeah, this art, it was pretty good. I read this all in one day. I thought the storyline was pretty interesting. I thought this was better than A Killing Joke, mainly because this guy right here and the Grim Knight. I thought both of them were really cool. I like the one issue that wasn't the Batman Who Laughs, and it was the Grim Knight issue 1. I thought that issue was insanely good, and seeing the development of all the characters in this cast was really interesting, so highly recommend this. And on to the next one I did read. Now, the next one I did read is probably my favorite storyline I've read so far, and my favorite looking volume, or well, I should say oversized hardcover omnibus or deluxe edition I actually have in my collection right now of comics. That's Hush. I got the 15th anniversary edition. This is the run by Jeff Loeb and also Jim Lee. I'll show you the guys what this looks like without the slip cover, which it just looks so nice without the slip cover. So, basically, in my eyes, this is my favorite one I've read so far, and this is it without the slipcover. I think this just looks so nice. It actually connects around the whole thing as a table. It's really interesting. It's a nice detective storyline for Batman, which I definitely needed to get into more Batman stuff that was detective based, and this is definitely my favorite start. Of course, you can say The Killing Joke, kind of, not really, but this is like the first big detective storyline that I read, and it was amazing. I read this all in a day as well, and I just couldn't stop. The art by Jim Lee was fantastic. The story by Jeff Loeb was amazing, and I cannot wait to read more Batman storylines if they are as good as this, because I loved it. I think Hush was an amazing storyline. Of course, this brings about a lot of twists and turns, mostly in the latter half, as you don't know who this Hush character is. You think it gets revealed like 4 times, and it isn't, and I really like that twist and turn kind of base style of storytelling that Jeff Loeb did in this, and I really did enjoy Hush. And yeah, that really hyped me up for the next storyline I read, which was also done by Jeff Loeb. It was drawn by Tim Sale, so let's just get straight into that one. Like I said, the next thing I did read was a storyline also done by Jeff Loeb and drawn by Tim Sale, which is the Long Halloween storyline, which this omnibus actually includes Haunted Nights, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and also When in Rome, the 4 storylines done by these 2 creators. And it was really good. I just think it was overhyped for me, as one person just kept asking me, have you read it? Have you read it? At least 10 times a day. And that person will be actually knowing who they are, so thank you very much. You ruined this storyline for me, but it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. They know I talked to them about it. I told them, please don't do that again, as it's very annoying, and I've told that to them multiple times while they're doing it, but of course they didn't stop. But I did enjoy the storyline quite a bit. I would say it's not as good as Hush, but I do like it nearly around Hush. I would say if I'm going to put Hush at an 8.59, I'd give this an 8 to an 8.5. Really interesting. My only critique with it was the last 2 issues of every storyline, other than Haunted Night. I thought Haunted Night was pretty boring most of the time, but Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and When in Rome, the last 2 issues to 3 issues of each was really amazing. Like, peak comics that I've read, but the middle of each storyline kind of felt good, but nothing insane to me. And I really think that the twists and turns at the end of each one was the main reason I thought it was insane, and it piques my comics interest. But yeah, this was definitely a great detective storyline for Batman. If you're trying to get into any Batman storyline, this is probably where you should start. Maybe you should do the order I read it in too. That was a pretty good order to get into Batman comics, which is Killing Joke, Batman Who Laughs, Hush, then Long Halloween. But you can really just get this omnibus and straight up start with Batman comics, since it's a really good start. Of course, all the pages are laminated like every oversized hardcover in omnibus and comics. And we'll say, very interesting, very much enjoy it, but of course I don't think it's my favorite thing I've read yet, but I still have quite a few omnibuses I have to get through, so maybe I'll make an omnibus haul this week so I can show you guys off my comic collection I currently have. But yeah, that's all I have to talk about for this video, so let's just get straight to that outro. So yeah, that was all that I read in the month of August 2021, manga and comic related. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, as I've been really enjoying what I've been reading in August, and I'm really happy with what I read in August, as it's just been super fun to read all these series. And I will say, I want to get more into comics, so if you guys have any recommendations for comics, leave them down in the comments below, as I'm more of a starter, so I'm trying to get into more of the starter comics. So please, if you're going to recommend anything, probably start with the intros of the characters and not just be like, oh yeah, recommending this omnibus. That's like, you should read all 5 of these omnibus before you get in the... Yeah, no. Just try and recommend me like the start of character storylines, because I'm really trying to get into comics and they're really good right now. So that's all I had to say for this video. I also been reading a lot of manga, of course, but that took a big kind of backseat for me, and I've not had much time to record. I've just had enough time to read chapters here and there, so that's why I've only read this many volumes, or I probably would have read way more this month. But as school is now starting for me, I'm probably going to be reading way more, so look forward to that, and that's probably all I have to say for this video. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope I see you guys next time. Peace!